right, all right. Well, it's not ESPN's 30 for 30, however it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in history of the New York Football Giants. Going to try to get it done in 98 days. Probably not going to happen, but I am going to get it done before the beginning of the new season starts, which starts September 10th. And the Giants take on the Dallas Cowboys. So we're fortunate. We're getting toward the end of the 70s. This is the Harry Carson season. This is season number 53 in the history of the New York Football Giants. And since we're talking the 70s, we got to be talking another losing season. That's what we got. Another year, another losing season. Oh, my God. Painful. I mean, not even Novocaine could just numb this season. I mean, oh, my God. Thank goodness we had a defense. I mean, talking about no offense. I mean, we're going to go over some of these numbers. I mean, throughout the course, going back, what would you say? I'm going to say like 1948. 48, even up to now with Daniel Jones. There was a few little eras there where we had just a couple little eras where we had like the quarterback play was just like, was whew. This should be one of them. At least when we had Craig Morton, because Craig Morton in 1977, he moved on. He's now with Denver. He would take Denver because Denver had a really good defense, but he had some guys around him. But he would take Denver to the Super Bowl. So luckily for him, he got out of New York. He was with Denver, and good old Craig Morton took Denver to they lost 27-10 though. But good for him. Good for him. So this is one of those little void eras. Just 2 years, kind of 2 years, where the Giants, the quarterback. I mean, we had Joe Pisarcik. I mean, a guy could rifle a ball. All right, but we're going to go over some of their numbers, and oh my God, this was the this is probably my all-time favorite era. It's these 2 years, 77, 78. I mean, because it probably trumps the Dave Brown from Duke, Kent Graham era, right? Probably, yeah. I mean, because right now we have there's 77, 78. We had Randy Dean, who we drafted in 77, Jerry Goldstein, and Joe Pisarcik. Yeah, not real winners there. So I mean, this is just one of those absolute, unbelievably horrible void years that the Giants had, and the offense was ungodly. It was just absolutely horrible. I mean, average I think it was like back to back 12 point years. We had, as I said, this kind of trumps, as I said, like there was the Dave Brown, Kent Graham, Danny Canal era, kind of from like 94 to 98. Those guys were at least a little bit better. And Dave Brown, had actually wound up with a rather lengthy career. I mean, he wound up as a backup, I think, with the Cardinals. But he lasted into the 2000s. We got him in a supplemental draft in 1993. But I mean, from 94 to 98, they were adequate. The guys, like especially Kent Graham, right? An adequate backup. Dave Brown was an adequate backup, not so much starters, right? But that was that little void area there. But I mean, the 77, 78, I mean, it was a couple years that we had between Y.A. Tittle and Fran Tarkenton, which was 65 and 66. At least we had Earl Morrall, who took two different teams to Super Bowls. He took the 68 Colts to the Super Bowl, and he took the 72 because Bob Greasy broke his leg early in the season. So Bob Greasy is the one that played in the Super Bowl, but Earl Morrall is the one that got him there. And as I said, in the 68, I think Earl Morrall was the MVP of the NFL 68. He commanded the Baltimore Colts were 13-1, got them to the Super Bowl. They lost to the Jets in the Super Bowl. But even when we had a little void year, in between Y.A. Tittle and Fran Tarkenton, said we still had Earl Morrall, who was a decent quarterback. The problem was we had no talent around him except for Homer Jones. And then there was after Tarkenton left from 72 and 73, right? We had Norm Snead, who was not a horrible quarterback. And in fact, 1972, Norm Snead actually led the NFL in passing completion percentage. He completed over 60% of his passes. One of the biggest reasons why is because we had a good running game, Ron Johnson. But we had, Norm Snead was, okay. 1973, it was a little different story. But then we got 74, we got Craig Morton, who was a decent quarterback. He took two different teams to Super Bowl. So, for the most part, the Giants had, for the most part, over, going back even Charlie Connolly, 1948, right, when he started with the Giants have always had pretty much decent quarterback play, for the most part. So there was just a couple of void years where it was almost like nothing. And this 1977 was one of them. It was just absolutely horrible. So let's see what Wikipedia has got to say about the 1977 season for the New York Football Giants. Let me pop that up here if I can find it. There we go. 1977 New York Giants. Oh boy. The 1977 New York Giants season was the franchise's Harry Carson's year, the 53rd season. 53rd season for the New York Giants, 58th season for in the history of the NFL, because the NFL started in 1920, Giants started in 1925. The Giants are 5 years younger than the NFL is. The Giants had a 5-9 record, and I'll tell you what, if you start looking at this offense, you'd be just surprised they won any games at all. And they finished a tie for last place with the Philadelphia Eagles. But the difference is after 77, the Eagles would start winning and going to playoffs. Yep. And in fact, after so the Eagles were tied for the Giants for last place in 1977. Well, 3 years later, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. They got smoked by the Raiders, but they got to the Super Bowl. And meanwhile, the Giants still had a losing record. So the Giants selected defensive end Gary Jeter from USC. Very good pick. He was only with the Giants with 77, 78, 79, 81. Well, he was with the Giants for 6 years. He had a long career. He wound up in 1989. Was his final season was with the New England Patriots. But so he had a long career, just six of the years with the Giants. And I remember one of the things he was talking about. He saw Superman 1. He saw Superman 2 and Superman 1 in the movies, and I guess Superman 2 came out in the movies. And then he started playing with Superman 3, meaning he started playing with Lawrence Taylor, because he played with Lawrence Taylor in 1981 and 1982. Before the season, the Giants signed quarterback Joe Pisarcik, who won the starting position to replace Craig Morton, whom they had traded to the Denver Broncos. New York won their opening game of this year against the Washington Redskins, prevailing 20-17 on a field goal by Joe Danello with 7 seconds left. After the ball went through the uprights, there was 3 seconds left. So basically, all the Giants had to do was field. We'll go over this game a little more in a few minutes here, but all the Giants had to do was just cover the kickoff, and that's what they did. Clock ran out. Giants won. So we'll go over that in a little bit. After losses in their next 3 games, victories over the 49ers, who were not very good then, because Bill Walsh was not their coach, and they did not have Joe Montana as their quarterback yet. So, but 4 years later, the 49ers were starting their dynasty. 4 years later, the 49ers would go to the Super Bowl, beat the Bengals 26-21. So the Giants beat the 49ers, but once again, the Giants would just kind of flounder around, losing one season after the other. While within the next couple of years, the 49ers would start going up and becoming like a dynasty in the 80s. And the then the Giants beat the 49ers and the Redskins. And then the Giants actually were 3-3. Afterwards, they lost 6 of their next 8 games, with the season ending 12-9 defeat to the Chicago Bears in overtime. the team concluded the year at 5-9. This is the second season for Coach John McVay. He was the interim coach for the most part, the final 7 games of the 76 season after Bill Hornsberger got fired when the Giants started 0-7. They lost 27-0 at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Andy Robustelli, the director of operations, football operations, I believe that's what he was called, was a quote, unquote, kind of like the first GM the Giants ever had. Got rid of Bill Hornsberger, brought in John McVay. And so he finished out the season. The final 7 games of the 76 season, the Giants actually went 3-4. And they lost the 4 losses that they had were by a combined total of 20 points. They lost some close games. But I mean, the common theme from 74, even 70, even 73. I mean, 73, I think they averaged 16 points a game. 74, they averaged like 14 points a game. 75, they averaged 15 points a game. 76, they averaged 12 points a game. And this year, they averaged almost 13 points a game. 13 points a game. Oh, my goodness. Offensively, New York's season, it totaled 181 points, was lower than all but 4 of the 27 other teams. Pisarcik started 11 of the Giants' 14 games, and he threw for 1,346, 1,300 yards in 11 games. He basically averaged a little over 100 yards passing a game. But he had 14 passes intercepted and only 4 touchdowns. Bobby Hammond led the Giants in rushing with 577 yards. Doug Coder and Larry Zonka also rushed for more than 450 yards each. So, I mean, the Giants had we're going to go over this in a bit, but especially their one game where they just kept feeding the rock against the Cardinals. Third to last game of the season. The team's leading receiver. This was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The team's leading receiver statistically was Jimmy Robinson, who caught 22 passes. 14-game schedule, he caught 22 passes. We got guys nowadays catching almost 22 passes in a game. Close. I mean, if you got a guy on a hot streak, you guys catching 22 passes in like 3 games, right? 22 passes for a whole season, for all 14 games. He caught 1.5 passes a game. Basically, he averaged 3 catches in 2 games. Every 2 games, he catches 3 passes. This would also be the final season for the 14-game schedule, because in 1978, they would have the 16-game schedule, which they kept all the way up until a couple years ago. Let's see. Gary Shirk was the only other Giants player with multiple touchdown catches. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's horrible. Johnny Perkins was second behind Robinson with 20 receptions. So the Giants' 2 leading receivers had grand total of 42 receptions between the 2 of them. Combined their catches, 42 catches for the whole season. On defense, cornerback Bill Bryant led the team with 3 interceptions for the second consecutive season. Linebacker Brand Van Pelt was the only Giant to make to the Pro Bowl. I mean, he was very good. He was very, very special. He was. Let's see here. What we got here? All right. So we got, let's see. Let's go to that. We'll go to the Giants draft here, shall we? Now, over the past, I don't remember how many seasons. There was 17 rounds. This year, it went down to 12 rounds in the draft. So the Giants had the 5th overall pick because they stunk the year before. They were 3-11. So they had the 5th overall pick, and they took Gary Jeter. Very solid, very, very good pick. Add him to the stable of guys that they had on the defensive line, and with Mendenhall. I mean, Gregory and Mendenhall, Gregory had been around since the 60s, so his career playing time was coming to an end. Mendenhall would only play with the Giants for, I think, 3 more years. I think his final season was in 1980 with the Detroit Lions. So Mendenhall only played, but I mean, and unfortunately, Troy Archer, who we drafted in 1976, should have been around for a long time to come, but he died after the 78 season. He drove his truck into a pole on a rain-slicked highway, I believe it was. I guess it was going around a turn, I think it was, and he just slid off and drove into the pole. I believe there was 2 people in the truck. He passed away. I think the other person lived though. But so I mean, they started adding. I mean, at least with Gary Jeter, we added him to George Martin, right? I said, oh, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm saying for this season, there was Mendenhall, there was Gregory, there was George Martin, we had Gary Jeter, and we had Troy Archer. So I mean, the front wall was starting to become pretty good. I said, then we had Brad Van. We still had Brian Kelly, we had Harry Carson, we got Brad Van Pelt. Now you'll notice is that the secondary was not super spectacular. Right. However, with the linebackers and the front wall, we're starting to become pretty formidable. Now, I mentioned this, back in probably 72. I think it was the Giants started adding little pieces to the puzzle, especially mainly on defense. And they started adding, a little piece here, a little piece there every year. And the defense started becoming better and better and better. And, it kept the Giants in a lot of games this year, won the Giants some games this year. I said, I mean, you're only averaging 12, almost 13 points a game. It's amazing they won 5 games at all. A lot of it had to do with the defense. So in the second round, let's see here. Just want to make sure there wasn't any trades or anything. So the second round, the Giants drafted Johnny Perkins, who wound up being a decent wide receiver for the Giants. I don't remember off the top of my head how long he played for the Giants, but they needed something on offense because they had none. So he was a good decent wide receiver, nothing super spectacular. Let's see. Actually, I know he did play quite a few years for the Giants. Let's see here. Let's see. I know he got to at least 81 with the Giants. How long did he play here? Where's Johnny Perkins? There we go. Let's see. I know he was 81. Oh, 83. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years for the Giants. He only had, 83, he only played in 1 game. But so nothing super spectacular. Once again, he had 163 catches basically in 6 seasons. So nothing super. He averaged like 25 catches a game. 1981 was his best year. He had 51 catches. But that was about it. So they had him for a little while. All right, not too bad. All right, now where are we back at? Where are we at here? There we go. All right, so the second round of Giants took Johnny Perkins. I want to make sure don't want to skim over anything or anybody here. All right. There we go. The next round. Okay, the Giants. See, this was one of the ones that they traded in round 3. They traded with the Bears. The Giants got Dave Gallagher, who was the defensive lineman. The Giants traded Bob Grimm and their 3rd-round pick to the Bears. So the Giants did not have a 3rd-round pick in this year's draft because they wound up with Dave Gallagher, who did not play very long for the Giants at all. So that was another rather a bad trade. Not that the Giants would have drafted anybody super spectacular, but you never know. But I mean, I said Dave Gallagher did not play very long at all for the Giants. That probably wasn't any more than a year or 2. All right, so then what else we got here? Just want to make sure I don't miss nothing. It's around 4. The Giants selected Mike Vaughn. Yeah. Bad pick. All right, so then we go. See anything else? Okay, I don't see nothing. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any trades here or not like that. So round 5, the Giants took Randy Dean. Who, so you're taking a quarterback in the 5th round. You don't expect much, and that's exactly what they got. But that added to the trifecta, right? You had Goldstein, Randy Dean, and Joe Pisarcik. Holy cow. Wow. So, all you Daniel Jones haters out there, let me tell you what. You could have Joe Pisarcik, Jerry Goldstein, and Randy Dean, right? Could be worse. So, I like Daniel Jones, but I know there's people out there who don't like Daniel Jones, so could be worse. All right, then it's round 5. Let's see, I'll make sure I'm not missing any trades here or anything like that. All right, round 6. The New York Giants took Bob Jordan. Yep, didn't get much out of him. I can assure you that. Oh, okay. And then round 6, let's see. Okay, the Giants went with Emory Moorhead. The Giants made a trade. The Giants traded Andy Selfridge to the Dolphins. Let's see, for the Dolphins 1977 6th-round pick. So the Giants took Emory Moorhead, who, I mean, didn't have a heck of a long career with the Giants. I remember him more playing with the Bears than with the Giants. Let's take a look here, shall we? We got the time. Was he on it? Emory Moorhead. Okay, Emory Moorhead. Let's see, how long did he play for the Giants? He had a long career. Wow, I didn't realize it was that long. He played till 1988. He played 12 seasons, 1977 to 88, but he only played 3 seasons with the Giants, 77 to 79. He caught 24 passes in 3 seasons. Then he played 1980 with the Denver Broncos with Craig Morton. But I guess basically maybe he was on special teams or something or whatever. He didn't catch any passes. But then from 81 to 88, he finished his career with the Bears. And, of course, 1985, he was a Super Bowl champion because he was with the Bears. And the Giants lost to the Bears in the playoffs, 21-0 in 1985. So Emory Moorhead was a Super Bowl champion. But he was drafted by the Giants, and as I said, he only played 3 seasons with the Giants. And I just saw he caught 24 passes in 3 seasons for the Giants. So, I mean, nothing super spectacular there. All right, so that's round 6. There's make sure there's no more trades or anything. All right, round 7. Okay, the Giants took the Giants. Okay, this wound up being a decent pick for the Giants. Now, he wasn't always the most accurate kicker, but he always made things fun and interesting. The Giants got Joe Danello from the Packers, so the Giants traded their 7th-round pick. 7th-round pick and their 10th-round pick in next year's draft, 1978, to get Joe Danello. So the Giants got themselves a kicker, right? They had Joe Danello in 1976 because the Giants had George Hunt for 1975. Pete Gogolak kicked for the Giants from 66 to 74. 1975, George Hunt was the last straight-on kicker for the Giants. 1976, we traded with the Packers, and we got Joe Danello, who was with the Giants into the 80s. So the Giants traded away their 7th-round pick in the 77 draft and their 10th-round pick in the 78 draft. So the Giants didn't have their own 7th-round pick. The Giants did get the Oilers pick because the Giants traded Joe Dawkins and Dave Simonson to the Oilers for their 7th-round pick. And they wound up taking Al Dixon. And they also got another pick from the which possibly might have been Rich Martin or Martini. Martini, huh? Anybody want a drink? So the Giants traded one of their running backs away, and they wound up taking Al Dixon. So let's see now. The Giants here. All right, where are we at here? Okay, so that's round 7. So going into round 8, the Giants took Bill Rice. Didn't get much out of him, I can tell you that much. Let's see. The Giants then traded Jim Obradovich in to the 49ers. So the Giants got Otis Rogers from the 49ers with the 49ers 8th-round pick. Didn't get much out of him, I can tell you that much. So now we're going to, there's a lot of trading go on there, right? All right, so now we go to the 9th round. The Giants took Ken Mullins. Didn't get much out of him. Anything else? No other trades. Round 10, the Giants took Mike Jones in the 10th round. Didn't get much out of him. Round 11, the Giants took Bill Helms. Didn't get much out of him. And round 12, the Giants took Elmo Simmons. There you go. Didn't get much out of him. Any other trades? Anything else? Nope. That pretty much wraps up the draft of the New York Giants. So they had a couple pieces of the puzzle. They made some trades and all and everything. Right. The Giants, their preseason was not very good. They were 1-5. They lost to the Patriots 19-3. They lost to the Saints 23-7. They lost to the Chargers 29-17. They did beat the Buffalo Bills in overtime 24-21. Then they lost to the Jets 10-0, and then they lost to the Dolphins 27-21. So the Giants finished the regular season, the preseason 1-5. So going into the regular season, the Giants started. Now this was the kind of the football gods kind of started like a shining down on the Giants a little bit here, right? The first game of the season, the Giants played the Washington Redskins. 1976, the first game of the season, the Giants played the Washington Redskins. The Giants had the lead in 1976. They were winning 17-12. Dave Jennings booted a punt. I can't remember the guy's first name, but Brown was his last name. Returned the punt like 45 yards into Giants territory. So the Redskins started their drive at like the Giants' 45-yard line or so. And then Billy Kilmer led him on a drive, and with 30 seconds to go or so in the game, he hit Mike Thomas in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. So the Redskins won 19-17 in a heartbreaker, just a heartbreaker. Well, the first game of the season here, the Redskins came to town, and the football gods reversed things. It was about time the Giants started beating George Allen and those freaking Washington Redskins. So the Giants, offensively didn't do much. George Martin, I think it was his first touchdown he ever scored. I think he scored 6 defensive touchdowns. Well, this was the first one, I believe. He picked off a Billy Kilmer pass. It was supposed to be a screen pass. He picked it off, ran it back for a touchdown. But the Giants were still trailing. The Giants were trailing 17-10 in the fourth quarter, and then was it Gary? Who was it? Was it Shirk? Who was the one there? Gary Shirk caught an 8-yard pass from Jerry Goldstein to tie the game at 17. It was like about 1:50 to go in the game, so the place was going crazy because it was a home game for the Giants. The place was going crazy. We had never beaten George Allen team back to back. Never. We beat them in 1976. We beat them 12-9 at Giants Stadium for the first time. The Giants in 14 tries ever beat a George Allen, or actually 15 tries. The Giants were 0-14 against George Allen and the Redskins and the Rams when he coached the Rams. So in the second game when the Giants faced the Redskins in 1976, the Giants won 12-9. So after that, the Giants were 1-14 against George Allen. Well, so the first game of the season here, the Giants trying to beat him for back-to-back times, George Allen. And they hadn't beaten the Redskins back-to-back since 1970. So the Giants tied up with about 1:50 to go. And then the Redskins got the ball. Billy Kilmer handed the ball off, I think it was to Thomas, their running back. I think Troy Archer might have gotten his hand in there to knock the ball loose. But it was Mike Thomas, yeah. And Harry Carson landed on it like around the 30-yard line or so. So the place is going bananas. So then the Giants inched their way down the field a little bit. And with 7 seconds left to go, Joe Danello lines up and just sneaks the ball in. He was not the most accurate kicker of all time, but he always made things exciting. He kicked the game-winning field goal with 7 seconds left to go to put the Giants up 20-17. It was after the kick went through the uprights. There was 3 seconds left to go. All they had to do was kick the ball down the field and cover the kickoff, and that's what they did. And the place was going bananas. Giants started 1-0. They beat George Allen 2 times in a row. They would also beat him again a 3rd time in a row later on in the season in Washington. And basically this would be the final season for George Allen as a coach in the NFL, period. But so the Giants started off 1-0, a thrilling victory that they wound up having. But let me go over some of their stats here. I mean, just they averaged what are they? They gave up 18.9 points per game. They scored 12.9 points per game. Unbelievably, there was 4 other teams that were actually worse than the Giants. One of them was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who scored 7.9 points per game in 77. All right, let's see. The Giants quarterbacks, between the two of them, all year long, 14 games, threw 6 touchdown passes. They threw 22 interceptions. 6 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. Their interception rate was 7.1%. I mean, just unbelievable. We had a grand total of 1,762 yards passing the whole season in 14 games. As I read before, Bobby Hammond led the team in rushing with 577 yards. Larry Zonka was second, or it was third. He had 464 yards. Doug Coder was third. He had 480 yards. Willie Spencer, good old Willie, he had 184 yards rushing. But, I mean, nobody had average 4 yards a carry. Bobby Hammond had 3.7 yards a carry. Larry Zonka, 3.5 yards a carry. Doug Coder, 3.6 yards a carry. Willie Spencer, 3 yards a carry. We had Larry Watkins, who had 3.7 yards a carry. Gordon Bell, he averaged 3.9 yards a carry. So, I mean, we averaged 3.5 yards on a carry. Thankfully, our defense only gave up 3.4 yards a carry. You know what I mean? Because our defensive front was really starting to get good. We had good linebackers, so we were really good against the run. Actually, honestly, we weren't even that bad against the pass either. I mean, we only gave up 12 passing touchdowns all season long. And we gave up 16 rushing touchdowns all year long. So we gave up 28 touchdowns in 14 games. 2 touchdowns a game. But you figure our defense would have gave up even less points if our offense actually could stay on the field. It just couldn't. It was so horrible. So horrible. Joe Danello kicked 14 out of 23 field goals, 60.9%. He only had 20 extra point tries all year. We only scored 20 touchdowns all year long. I mean, just to go show you how unbelievably horrible. And I said, if you look at the receiving, Bobby Hammond had 19 receptions. Doug Coder had 15. Emory Moorhead, who we just drafted, had 12 receptions. Our leading receiver, Jim Robinson, 22 receptions. He played and started all 14 games. He was our starting wide receiver, 22 receptions all year long. Johnny Perkins, who we drafted, he played in 13 games. He had 20 receptions. Gary Shirk, tight end. Let's see. He started in 10 games. Bob Tucker started the other 4. But Gary Shirk had 16 receptions all year long. I said we had six receiving touchdowns all year long. We had 3 guys all year long catch touchdown passes. 3 guys. Gary Shirk had caught 2 touchdown passes. Jim Robinson caught 3, and Emory Moorhead caught 1 touchdown pass. No other player caught a touchdown pass the whole season long. I mean, all right. So the second week of the season, the Giants went to Dallas and lost 41-21. That was a mauling there. Yeah, the Cowboys, 444 yards of offense, 25 first downs. Yeah, the Giants had a hard time there. Then the Giants, the next week, they played the Atlanta Falcons. I believe this is the Grits Blitz game. The Giants had 10 first downs, 177 yards of total offense. I mean, the Giants got a field goal. Giants lost 17-3 against the Falcons. Then the Eagles came to town. The Giants lost to the Eagles 28-10. So now the Giants are 1-3. Then they would win back-to-back games. They would beat the 49ers, who were not very good. They would beat them 20-17. So now the Giants are 2-3. Then the Giants would go into Washington and beat the Redskins for the 3rd consecutive time. And as I said, they would sweep the series, the season series. This is 1977. Last time they swept the season series against the Redskins was in 1970. So the Giants beat George Allen and the Redskins 17-6. So now the Giants are 3-3. Then the Giants, and this was the another Monday night debacle. The Giants went on the road. They played the Cardinals, and you can't hardly find anything at all, like video-wise on this. They played the Cardinals Monday night on Halloween, Monday, October 31st. They played the St. Louis Cardinals in St. Louis, and they lost 28-0. This was their back-to-back 55-0 losses. Because after you lose 28-0 on Monday Night Football in 1978, they're not having you back on Monday Night Football. And they didn't. So they decided to have the Giants back on Monday Night Football in 1979, when they went to Washington and they played the Redskins and they lost 27-0. So they had back-to-back shutouts on Monday Night Football. They lost 28-0 and 27-0. Then, of course, that you also couple this up with the fact that in 1973, we lost to the Rams 40-6, right? So we lost, what would that be, 95-6. Well, in between that, 73, 75, 77, 79. Remember those four, right? 73, 5, 7, 9. Giants played Monday Night Football there. 3, 5, 7, 9. 1975, we actually beat the Bills, 17-14. Good game. But 1973, we didn't have a Monday night game in 74, 76, and 78 because we stunk, right? But 1973, we lost 40-6 to the Rams. 1977, we lost 28-0 to the Cardinals. And 1979, we lost 27-0 to the Redskins. So we lost, I guess my calculations right, 95-6. We played 3 Monday night games, didn't score a touchdown. Wow. All right, so now the Giants, after they lost their Monday night game 28-0, now they're 3-4. Then they had the Cowboys. The Cowboys came to town. The Giants lost 24-10. Now they're 3-5. Then the Giants went and they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went to Tampa, played the Buccaneers for the first time ever. Buccaneers are second year in existence. The Giants won 10-0. But if you look, just to show you how horrible the Giants' offense was, that the Buccaneers outgained the Giants. The Buccaneers had the Buccaneers had 5 turnovers. I think we blocked one of their punts, which led to a touchdown. The Buccaneers kept walking up and down the field, but the Buccaneers had missed 2 field goals. They had the ball inside the Giants 10-yard line 3 times, and they kept going for it on 4th down, and the Giants kept stopping them. So instead of kicking field goals, he keeps going for it on 4th down, and the Giants keep stopping him. But Tampa Bay had 19 first downs in this game. The Giants had 13. The Tampa Bay had 287 yards of offense. The Giants had 197. The Giants completed 6 passes against a second-year team. We completed 6 passes all game long against the second-year expansion team, Tampa Bay. 6 pass completions all game long. We had 88 yards of. Well, actually 74 yards of net passing after you take the sacks away. We had 88 yards passing, net yards pass, right? No, not net, before the sacks, 88 yards. The Buccaneers had 234 yards passing, and they averaged 7.8 points per game or 7.9 points per game, and they had 234 yards passing against it. They had 13 completions. We had 6. They had more than twice the amount of completions we did. We easily could have lost this game. We easily could have actually gave the Buccaneers their first victory ever, but thankfully we didn't. So we wound up surviving there. We won 10-0 in Tampa Bay. So now we're 4-5. All right. Then unfortunately they would lose 4 of their next 5 games and wind up 5-9. That following week, the Cleveland Browns would come to town. We lost 21-7. I know it was 14-7, and somebody picked the pass off and ran it back for a touchdown. Who was that? So we would draw. It was 14. I think it was 14-7. Was it 14-7? Oh no! My bad. Gerald Irons. There you go. He's the one that he picked. He was with the Raiders. Okay, no. Actually, my bad. It was 7-7. We were driving. Gerald Irons picks a pass off, runs it back 53 yards for a touchdown to put the Browns up 14-7. And Paul Warfield caught a touchdown pass. And so the final score was 21-7. But so it was an intercepted pass that got run back for a touchdown. That was one of the problems in that game. Then we lost. Then we went to Cincinnati. We played the Bengals in a little bit of a snow. especially early on in the game. It was kind of snowing. The first play from scrimmage for the Bengals, they threw it. How far was the touchdown pass? Ken Anderson fakes a handoff, drops back the pass, lofts the ball to Billy Brooks for 58 yards and a touchdown. So we're like 13 seconds into the game. I don't remember if the Giants had the ball first or not, but as soon as the Bengals got the ball, first play, touchdown pass. The Giants were losing 27-0 at one point in the second quarter, 27-0. Then, of course, then the rest of the way, we scored what did we score? We scored 2 touchdowns, and they only kicked a field goal. But there was 27-0 like halfway through the second quarter. And we wound up losing 30-13 to the Bengals. All right, so then after that, then we had we had some luck. I mean, well, not some luck, but we got a little revenge on the Cardinals. The Cardinals, now the Giants are 4-7 after we lost to the Bengals 30-13. So now we got some revenge on the Cardinals. The Cardinals came to town on Sunday, December 4th. The 12th game of the season, the Giants would prevail 27-7. They would dish out their own butt whooping. Because remember, the Cardinals beat us 28-0 on Monday Night Football. Well, we beat the Cardinals here 27-7 at home, so we exacted some revenge on them. So now the Giants are 5-7. So they still have a chance of becoming 500 if they can win their final 2 games. And they came really close. Unfortunately, it just goes to show you. I mean, I was just in this one game that they played week 13. They went to Philadelphia to play the Eagles at the Vet. I mean, they totally shut the Eagles down. The Eagles had 10 first downs. The Eagles had minus 13 yards net passing. They had 33. They were 4 out of 10 passing the ball, the Eagles. They had 33 yards. However, we sacked them 5 times for minus 46 yards. They had minus 13 yards passing. They had 121 yards rushing. They had 108 yards of total offense, and they still wound up beating us. What it was I don't remember exactly what the circumstances were, but the Giants were winning 14-10, and the Eagles got the ball. I don't remember how. I don't think that they drove down the field or exactly what it was, but they had the ball, and it was 4th down. It was 4th down from like the 1 yard line, and I believe this was the play where it was 4th and goal, and the Eagles had to score a touchdown because they're down 14-10. And they're down, they played horrible all game, but they scored on, I think it was like 4th and 1, 4th and goal. So Ron Jaworski goes and he fakes the handoff to, I forgot who it was. So of course everybody and their grandma on the Giants, whoever the linebackers were, they come crashing down into the middle. Everybody's jumping over the pile, trying to tackle the guy who's got the handoff and all of this, and everybody's jumping into the middle and all of that. And of course, Ron Jaworski pulls the ball out of the running back's hand, has it on his hip, bootlegs around the end, walks into the end zone, game-winning touchdown. Giants lose. Unbelievable. Well, yeah, you got to give him credit where credit's due. I mean, I don't know if he would have Ron Jaworski would have handed the ball off if the guy would have scored or not. I don't know, but he faked the handoff. All the Giants crashed in, trying to make the tackle because Ron Jaworski won't keep the ball, right? Well, that's exactly what he did. Ran around the end into the end zone. Game-winning touchdown. Game over. Giants lose, and then the Giants are 5-8. Then, of course, in the final game of the season, the Giants wind up going into overtime. They kicked a late field goal to tie it up at 9, and they wound up losing in overtime to the Chicago Bears on an ice-soaked, sleet, rain, dreary, miserable day at the Giants Stadium. They lost 12-9 to the Bears in overtime. So they wound up the season at 5-9. The one thing that they were trying to do, which they did a very good job of, was they wanted to. I mean, the Giants outgained the Bears 370-284. The Giants had 20 first downs. The Bears had 13, but the Giants just couldn't get the job done. But what they were trying to do was they wanted to limit it, because if Walter Payton had like 184 yards or something like that, I forgot what it was, he would have had 2,000 yards rushing. Well, the Giants wanted to eliminate that. So he wound up with 15 carries for 47 yards. So the Giants really shut him down really, really good. The Giants in that game almost had 200-yard rushers. Larry Zonka had 100 yards rushing, and Doug Kotar had 95 yards rushing. So, but I mean, yeah, but it was just not meant to be. I mean, once again, I said the Giants, their offense was just unbelievably horrible. I mean, if you look at some of these scores here, right? They scored 3 points, 10 points, 0 points, 10 points, 10 points, 7 points, 13 points, 9 points. I mean, just horrible, absolutely horrible. And, 1978 wasn't going to be much better either because they pretty much had the same quarterbacks. They once again had Joe Pisarcik. So things were not going to get much better. And they did have a good defense, which would keep them in many, many games. But I said between the two quarterbacks, Joe Pisarcik and Jerry Goldstein, they had 6 touchdown passes all season long. I mean, remember the game? I mean, what was it, the game against, the Giants? Right, Eli Manning got Drew Brees. Did Drew Brees throw for 7 touchdown passes in that game or 6? I forgot what he threw for 7, and Eli Manning threw for 6. I think it might have been something like that. Well, I mean, Eli Manning had like 6 touchdown passes in the one game. Well, we had 6 touchdown passes all season long. I mean, Joe Pisarcik started 11 games for us, and he threw 4 touchdown passes in 11 games. Absolutely horrible. I mean, just the offense was just, it was just, it was rather painful to watch. What's up, Teddy? Other boys got the 78 Superman action figure. I got a sister. Oh, well, good for you. Congratulations. All right, so let's wrap this up here. The 1977 NFL season. Let's go over the who won. It wasn't the Giants. All right, so in the AFC East, the Baltimore Colts won with a record of 10-4. Pittsburgh Steelers were 9-5. The Denver Broncos were 12-2, and the Oakland Raiders, who won the wild card, were 11-3. So in the playoffs, this was the ghost to the post play. Very famous game. Very, very famous game. The Oakland Raiders beat the Baltimore Colts 37-31 in overtime. Fantastic game. And then the other game, the Denver Broncos beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 34-21, which set up the championship game between the Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders. Denver Broncos would wind up winning 20-17. There was a very controversial call in there, which Rob Lytle, I think it was, fumbled the ball. You can easily see he fumbled the ball inside around the 2-yard line or so of the or not even inside the 1-yard line of the Raiders. And the refs, I forgot if they blew the whistle dead or they said that he didn't fumble or whatever it was, but he fumbled the ball. The Raiders got the ball, and the Broncos wound up with a touchdown. So the refs, if there was instant replay back then, the call would have been reversed, but it was what it was. The Broncos wound up winning, so they went to the Super Bowl. So in the NFC, the Cowboys won. They had a record of 12-2. They were by far in the NFL the best team by far. Well, not by far. They were certainly the best team in all football. The Minnesota Vikings won the NFC Central. The record of 9-5. They beat the Bears in a tiebreaker. The Bears were the wild card team. The Bears were 9-5. And then in the NFC West, once again, the Rams would win with a record of 10-4. So in the playoffs, the Vikings would beat the in a mud ball. Ever check that? The 1977 playoff game on December 26th at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the Vikings would win 14-7. Mud. Didn't start off too muddy, but as the game wore on, I think they just started chewing up the field, and it got muddy, very muddy. And then in Texas Stadium, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Chicago Bears 37-7. So that set up the championship game. The Cowboys beat the Vikings 23-6. So therefore, in the Super Bowl, the Dallas Cowboys faced the Denver Broncos, and it wasn't much of a Super Bowl. I mean, it was 13-0 at halftime. It was 20-10 after the third quarter. Then the Cowboys scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter to make it 27-10. But I mean, it was not that close. Harvey Martin and Randy White were the co-MVPs because I think each one had like 37 sacks. How many times did he get sacked here? It's got to say that. Oh, sacked. I'm saying I think it's 4 times. That's it. Really? Huh. All right. Well, but see, Denver completed 8 passes out of 25 attempts. They got sacked 4 times. They threw 4 interceptions. They had 35 net yards passing. I mean, just absolutely horrible. The Broncos had 156 total yards of offense. It was just absolutely horrible. They had 11 first downs. They couldn't move the ball at all. Craig Morton was he was the quarterback for the Broncos. Then they also brought their the Broncos brought their backup quarterback in as well. But it was not much of a Super Bowl that year. 1977, the Cowboys were a very special team. They went all the way, and they wound up winning the Super Bowl as well as they should. I mean, they were far superior to the Denver Broncos, and so that was the Dallas Cowboys' second Super Bowl win. So that pretty much wraps up the 1977 season for the New York Giants. Wasn't much to talk about, as most of the seasons were. But 5-9, another losing season. Once again, no offense. It is what it is. So 1978 would not bring much relief. The only difference would be that, once again, another losing season, not much offense. They would have a 16-game schedule, so they had a chance to lose even more games in 1978, which they wound up doing. But as I said, it wraps up 1977. It was not a banner year for the Giants. 1978 would not be much better. 78, 79, 80 would not be much better. But 1981, the Giants would not only get a winning season, but they would also go to the playoffs for the first time since 1963. So it was a little light toward the end of the tunnel there. We're almost out of the wilderness years from 1964 to 1980. So we're going into, so tomorrow night it'd be 1978. It'd be 3 more years left in the wilderness years for the New York Giants before they can start winning some football games and go into some playoffs, and then soon to be Super Bowl champions. So that wraps up the 1977 season. I'll be back with the Andy Hedden season next year. The 1978 season, I believe Andy Hedden was number 54, which is, so 1978 just happened to be the 54th season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.